Have you ever wondered what the secret to happiness is? It's a question that has perplexed philosophers, scientists, and everyday individuals for centuries. Is it wealth, fame, love, or perhaps something more intangible? Today, we'll explore this enigma through the lens of a humble tale. A story about a father and his son. This isn't just any father and son duo. Their bond is special, their conversations profound, their journey towards understanding happiness enlightening. As we delve into their narrative, we'll unravel the 5 lessons the father teaches his son about happiness. These aren't just any lessons, they're life-altering principles, inspired by timeless classics like The Pursuit of Happiness, Clueless, Easy A, and the wisdom of renowned professionals who've delved into the science of joy. So, buckle up and prepare for a rollercoaster ride of emotions and epiphanies. So, let's dive into the story of a father and his son and discover the 5 ways to happiness. It was a sunny afternoon when the father decided to teach his son the first way to happiness. He began by asking his son to think about the things he was grateful for. The son, being a child of wit and humor, started listing things like his favorite video games, Saturday morning cartoons, and the extra slice of cake he'd had the night before. The father chuckled, but then he asked his son to think a little deeper. He reminded his son of the movie they'd watched together, The Pursuit of Happiness. The father asked, "Remember how Chris Gardner was grateful for every small thing, even when he was struggling?" The son nodded, his eyes widening as he began to understand. The father continued, "Even in the toughest times, Chris found something to be grateful for. His gratitude didn't change his situation immediately, but it did change his perspective. He was able to stay hopeful and keep pushing forward because he chose to focus on the good in his life." The father explained that gratitude is like a light in the dark. Even when times are tough, being grateful can help you see the good around you. It can make you feel happier because you're focusing on the positive things in your life, not the negative ones. And so the son learned his first lesson. Expressing gratitude brings happiness. A few days later, the father decided it was time for the second lesson. He began by saying, "Son, happiness doesn't always come from what we receive, but often from what we give. This is the essence of kindness." The son, intrigued, asked, "How can giving make us happy, Dad?" With a smile, the father replied, "Let's take an example from a movie we watched together, Clueless. Do you remember the character Cher? She was popular and wealthy, but she wasn't truly happy until she started helping others. Through acts of kindness, she found a sense of happiness that her popularity and wealth couldn't provide." The father continued, "Remember when we found that lost puppy in the park? We could have ignored it, but instead, we took it in, cared for it, and found its home. Didn't that make you feel happy?" The son nodded, recalling the joy he felt when they reunited the puppy with its family. "See, son," the dad explained, "the joy you felt was from kindness. Happiness often comes when we extend our hearts to others, when we are kind. It's a unique kind of joy that fills us up from inside." He then asked his son to practice kindness every day, to experience this form of happiness firsthand. The son promised he would, excited to understand the joy of giving. With that, the son learned his second lesson. Kindness is a source of happiness. On a calm evening, the father decided to share the third way to happiness with his son. The air was filled with a sense of serenity as the father began to unravel the importance of forgiveness. He started by saying, "Son, there's a movie called Easy A, where the protagonist, Olive, faces a lot of misunderstanding and judgment. Despite all the hurtful things said about her, she chooses to forgive. And you know why? Because she understands that forgiveness is not about others, it's about freeing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment." The father then shared a personal story from his own life. "Once upon a time, I had a friend who wronged me. I held on to the grudge for years, letting it consume me. It was only when I chose to forgive him that I truly felt a weight being lifted off my shoulders. The relief was instant, and I felt a surge of happiness." He continued, "Forgiveness is like a magic potion. It heals wounds and mends broken hearts. It's not about forgetting what happened, but accepting it and choosing to move forward without any baggage. It's about realizing that everyone makes mistakes and deserves a second chance." The father looked at his son, his eyes sparkling with wisdom. "Remember, my dear boy, Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's only when you forgive can you make room for happiness. From this, the son learned his third lesson. Forgiveness leads to happiness. As days turned into weeks, the father shared the final 2 ways to happiness. He began by explaining mindfulness, a concept that can sometimes seem complex, yet at its core is beautifully simple. Mindfulness, he said, is about being present, about relishing the moment, about savoring the here and now. It's not about dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, but about fully immersing yourself in the current moment. The father then shared a story about a renowned psychologist who once said, "Happiness is not something ready-made, it comes from your own actions." He explained how this professional had spent years studying happiness and had concluded that mindfulness played a key role. The father shared his own experiences too, about how mindfulness had helped him appreciate life's simple joys and find happiness in the everyday. Next, the father spoke about love. Love is not just an emotion, he told his son. It's a decision, a commitment. It's about accepting others for who they are, about showing kindness and compassion, about being there for others in their times of need. He shared anecdotes, some from his own life, others inspired by a movie called The Pursuit of Happiness. The father emphasized that love wasn't just about romantic relationships, but about familial bonds, friendships, and even love for oneself. He urged his son to love generously and unconditionally, assuring him that love in all its forms was a sure path to happiness. And the son learned his final lessons. Mindfulness and love cultivate happiness. And that, my dear listeners, concludes our story. Let's take a moment to revisit the 5 key lessons of happiness that our young hero discovered on his journey with his father. First, he learned the power of gratitude, just like the characters in The Pursuit of Happiness. They found joy in even the smallest of blessings, reminding us to appreciate what we have. Then came the lesson of kindness, a virtue that transformed the lives of everyone in Clueless. It's the idea that our happiness multiplies when we share it with others. Our third lesson was forgiveness, a theme central to Easy A. It taught us that happiness is about letting go of grudges and moving forward. Next, he learned about mindfulness and love, the importance of being present and cherishing those around us, just as any true professional would advise. Remember, happiness is not a destination, but a journey. So why not start your journey today?